lifelong best friends. Take turns picking topics, then they see where it ends. So wild, it's weird, and sometimes specific. Whatever it is, you know it will be terrific. It's Hyperfixation Time.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Hyperfixation Time. I'm Erin.
And I'm Danny.
And it's Danny's week this week. So just to recap our podcast, basically every week, Danny and I switch topics. The other person doesn't know what it's going to be. And it's just something that we're interested in, hyperfixated on. And it could be anything, literally anything. Go back and look at some of our episodes. They are all over the place. But just fun to sort of go down those rabbit holes together and learn about the different things that we're interested in. Well, Danny, what is your microfixation of the week?
Okay, so I found a podcast that is it's definitely not new, but it's new to me, and it's called Was I in a Cult? And I think you would like it, and so I've been kind of dying to tell you about it because I've been binging listening to it. And yeah, it's basically these two people that they both were in different cults at some point in their lives themselves, and then they obviously are no longer in them. And they're just kind of exposing cults and letting people kind of know what to look for, what's some red flags. Yeah, warning signs. And so they interview just a lot of different people to get their life experiences and hear their stories, and it's just so interesting. And a lot of times it's really sad because people have experienced some really sad things revolving their experiences with cults, but it's very interesting, and it's always fun finding a podcast that you enjoy that has a giant backlog. So yeah.
Nice. Yes, that sounds right up my alley, honestly. It's on my list of topics. There's a couple cult things that I could talk about. So sorry, I might have missed it when I was writing it down, but each episode it's a different person that they talk to from a different cult, or is it just those two talking about their experience?
So they interview somebody else that's experienced life in a cult and basically gain their perspective on their cult, and they get to tell their story, and it's very interesting.
I love that. God, cults are so fascinating.
I know, they are.
There's so many and just so many variations, but then there's those common threads or themes between them, I feel sometimes too. So
I think it's good, they're getting this info out there too, so that people hopefully can kind of recognize the signs.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, rearranging. Do you ever just randomly rearrange things? Whether it's your desk or your dresser top or I don't know, that kind of stuff. It just switches things up.
Yeah.
I like it. So we rearranged our living room, and I'm also kind of rearranging the other living room. We've got two separate living areas, and we're just kind of moving things around in those spots. But I rearranged my desk because I got this from my friend Boris, and so I wanted that on my desk, and
it's a picture. It's an illustration of her cat.
Yeah, you're always good at being Erin,
explain.
Not a video, only a video. But just it's nice to kind of switch things up, especially when you've been in a place for a while, So.
Yeah, totally. It feels refreshing, you're almost in a new space. So that's cool.
Yeah, something different.
Well, in terms of main topic, I did not give you any clues because I didn't know what it was going to be. But do you have any guesses that you just feel like throwing out there?
I have I don't know. We did some of the astrology stuff already.
Okay.
Is it food? Is it?
Yeah. No.
You don't know.
No, I didn't. It has to do with language, and I think you're really going to enjoy it.
Okay. All right. I'm looking forward to it.
Let me just pull up my notes.
I was just going to say, I have a feeling that there's somebody maybe joining us.
Why would you think that?
I just have this feeling. I don't know. A language, though. Who do we know that? I'm trying to think. Come
Hello.
It's Amy.
Yay. So I told Erin that our topic today has to do with language, and that is all she knows.
Yes. Okay.
Welcome
Yes,
to the
and welcome.
podcast.
Thank you. Okay. So first, before I get started, I wanted to talk about 2 podcasts that you guys have done already. So like one of each of you that I really enjoyed.
I love that.
Okay. So,
All right.
So Erin, I loved the one that you did about like the punk rock scene of like the 2000s. I loved that so much. And I think like part of what I loved about it, like I know we've known each other like through that whole phase, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like I remember all of the clothing items that each of you brought up. I was like, I literally remember your star shoes, Erin.
Yes.
Oh, man.
I was gonna say,
Oh my gosh.
I feel like Amy and Jenny remember my star phase. I had like
So funny. And your obsession with Paramore.
Yes. Yep. Still strong. Maybe not as strong to this day, but still pretty strong.
So funny. Dude, we went to the concert at Summerfest. Remember that?
Yeah, we
I
did.
feel like that was like my first concert.
Oh,
That was
fun.
like one of my first. Yeah, for sure. That was like my love for. That's where like my love for Summerfest, I feel like, took off for sure. And that was one of our first. Like our parents let us go. Did any parents like come with us, or was it just?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it was like just
We
us.
were pretty independent high schoolers, I feel, for a lot of things like that. And so if listeners haven't gathered yet, Amy is one of our friends from high school as well.
Yes.
So we've all known each other for a very long time.
A long time.
Yep.
So I loved going down memory lane. Yeah. And then Danny, one of the ones that I liked that you did was the romanticizing your life one.
Fun. Thank you.
It was really,
we love hearing this
cute.
feedback. Yeah.
I think about that a lot. And like, how can I still think about that every day. I feel like,
One thing that I did, I don't like, this is so random, but I like to romanticize my life. I bought a lamp that can go in my shower.
That's a great example. Love it.
Yeah. No, it's really great. So like at the end of the day, when I'm taking a shower, even in the morning, if I'm showering and my husband's still sleeping, I can just turn on my lamp and just take a chill, relaxing shower. So
is it just kind of like, is it like a colorful lamp, or is it just kind of like a cozier light?
Mine's just like a cozier, like a soft kind of light. And you just like click on a little button and it turns on, and then you can like recharge it. So
that's wonderful.
Solid.
I highly recommend.
I love the callbacks to the episodes. So if anybody's, listening and they haven't heard what Amy's talking about, those are 2 great episodes to go back and listen to.
Yes, for sure.
Those 2 are doing pretty well too. So
really nice.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So today, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about American Sign Language.
I'm so excited. Okay.
I knew you'd like that one.
Okay. I love it. Okay. Very excited.
So tell me why you're excited about it.
2 reasons. One, for a long time, I really wanted to teach primates how to sign.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's fun.
Yeah, and I actually took a ASL class in college, but it was college, so I just didn't retain anything. Like it was just, this was like my least worried about class, so I didn't take a lot with me. But it's always been a goal of mine to keep learning. And then my friend Olivia, her wife Grace, has a sister, Tess, or she goes by CR sometimes too, who is deaf and has Down syndrome, and so she only communicates via ASL. So when I go and I see her, I met her a couple of times, and when I hang out with them, I try to like beforehand prep a little bit so I can talk with her just even a little bit, to say hi and whatnot. And I think
cool.
We need to know like the basics at least, like all of us do.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. You might know a lot of this then, because like I learned a lot. And like one thing I wanted to say in the beginning is like I am not an expert. Like I've never taken a class in sign language. I don't speak it or know anybody that like uses it for their primary language. So
Yeah.
kind of like Erin, you brought your sister on for POTS, which was also a cool episode. And she was like, well, I see a lot of, I'm a nurse and I see a lot of people with this. Like, that is not this. This is just like purely out of like curiosity and just some interest in the language and, just different ways that people communicate.
I love it.
I think.
I think that's I was just gonna say, I think that is a really good way to go about this, because that's essentially how Erin and I have treated this platform, is like, we're just curious about something, and so let's learn about it and talk about it as friends. So I love it.
Yeah. And it's also like, I'm not trying to teach anybody about deafness or like being deaf. I mean, I'm not trying to like be part of a group that I'm not part of. But so I'll be focusing more on like the ASL specifically, but it is kind of intertwined with deaf culture and just kind of some different things around that. So that'll come up later and we can chat about it. But
okay.
I got interested in this topic because I work in a school district, and a lot of the people or the students that I work with, like some of them have hearing impairments or are considered to be deaf, but others just use like maybe aren't verbal speakers or verbal English speakers, so they would use like a sign or two just to like communicate a topic. Like more is a really popular one, or like help. So I've like picked up like certain signs here and there just from working with students in the schools. And then another reason that I wanted to do, like, have you guys ever seen the movie Coda?
No.
Yes. Wait.
It's so good.
A couple years ago, right? Children of Deaf Adults, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it's on Apple TV. But anyway, I've watched it a couple times, and it's like one of my favorite movies. And yeah, so CODA is an acronym that stands for child or children of deaf adults. And so like this is a fiction movie, but there are 3 of the main actors in it are deaf and use sign language. So I thought that was cool, and just like the way that they express themselves and just like the way that the language flows kind of is just interesting to me. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is that there was, I don't know if you guys saw this, but an Olympian, Ilana Myers-Taylor, she was, I think, part of the bobsled team, and she's like a really decorated Olympian. But anyway, like she got a lot of media attention because she has 2 sons. One of them has Down syndrome and also is deaf, and her other son is deaf, and she learned sign language so she can communicate with her kids.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
That was kind of like a recent thing that just came up as I was researching this. So I would mention that. So
I know some people, regardless, like will teach their kids like more, or like
that's what I was going to say as well,
or like thank you, or things like just those kind of little things to wait, is that more? Yeah.
More.
Okay. Anyway, did you guys, with either of your children or children's, did you teach them any of that?
Basically just those ones that you just did there. Yeah. And I think milk is like this.
This, and then all done is this.
So we just keep like doing the motions, and if you're just listening, I don't know, go watch the YouTube video. I can't describe all these.
I know.
But
my son, who's 18 months, he's like starting to talk more with his word, like his verbal speech, but he does please, which is like rubbing your chest.
What it is, please.
And
so
say,
polite
like,
too.
So cute. Yeah. And yeah, like baby sign is kind of separate from sign language, but obviously like it uses the same elements. So I'll start with a little bit of history. So American Sign Language specifically originated around 1817, which is fairly recently, I feel like, in terms of languages. Obviously, people who are deaf or like communicating with deaf people have made their own sign languages, probably within their communities and families forever. But American Sign Language specifically was around 1817, and it was it was formed as a language because this guy, his name was Thomas Hopkins Gallaudet. He was an American, and he had this neighbor named Alice Cogswell, and she was deaf. And he like kind of picked up on the fact that she was really intelligent, but like he couldn't communicate with her. So he wanted to teach her how to like read and write. So this Thomas Gallaudet, he was a teacher. He went over to Europe and kind of learned from a bunch of people, and he brought this guy, Laurent Clerc, back with him. He was a French deaf educator, and they made this language, American Sign Language, and they also formed a school, the School for the Deaf, which still exists today in Hartford, Connecticut. So at that time, like a lot of deaf children were coming to that school, and then in order to communicate with them, they had to like form a common language, which became American Sign Language. So
It's really cool that he like wanted to do that for his neighbor. Like it wasn't even, like his kid, that like somebody that he has to communicate. He went out of his way to make that happen. That's really cool.
Yeah. So American Sign Language, interestingly, is similar to like a French Sign Language because that guy, Laurent Clerc, that he brought along with him over the ocean to help him form this school. And then later on, Thomas's son founded Gallaudet University, which is the first college for the deaf, which is in D.C., Washington, D.C.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. That's really
Interesting.
Cool. Yeah.
And so now there are more than 80 schools in the United States specifically for like deaf individuals, and ASL is pretty much how they would like communicate with each other and teach classes and stuff. And one of them is in Darien. Did you know that, Erin?
Yeah, that's where PJ is from. And
that's
so
what I thought.
The big thing about it being like, an area that a lot of people would move to specifically go if their child or somebody had, was deaf. They could be immersed in that, others around them, like just being able to communicate with them in ASL. So
are these schools, these aren't like colleges, these are like primary schools, you said?
So yeah, like I think the one in Wisconsin is, like a primary school. I don't know what age is, probably like K-12. And then Gallaudet University is like a college for deaf. So other notable dates: in 1960, the first ASL dictionary was written by William Stokoe, and that kind of established ASL, if it wasn't already, as like a bona fide language separate from English. So really like it's you kind of have to think of like sign language as totally separate from English per se, right? Like it's hard to, because we're always like trying to translate things from English, which is our first language, to like something else. But like ASL is not necessarily like made, like it's not word for word English, if that makes sense.
Because it like
direct. Oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna say it has to skip out a lot of words, like the in between words, right?
Yeah.
And so like the format of a sentence has to be quite different, I'm assuming.
Right. Exactly. So it has its own grammar and its own like phonology. So its own like combinations of sounds, or I guess it would be like combination of hand signals or hand motion making a word. It has its own syntax, which is the arrangement of words to make a sentence. Like you were saying, Danny, like maybe you would not use articles necessarily to like say a sentence. And it has its own morphology, so like the combination of prefixes and suffixes to make meanings, and then semantics, so the meaning of words and phrases. So like sprinkling versus raining, or like orange the color versus orange the fruit, right? Like in English that's the same word, but in sign language those would be like two totally different signs.
Would you be able to, I don't know if this is possible, but would you be able to like give an example of a sentence as it would sound? Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like the words, do you get what I'm saying?
I think so. Let me think. I might get to that later actually, because I will go into the more of like the how you would sign certain things, or how you would say certain
we can
things.
Talk about it then.
Yeah. A couple more things that I wanted to just mention about like the history of the language, and this kind of does go into like deafness and disability. Well, in 1975, IDEA was passed, and this is a national law. So this is like basically saying that every child has the right to a free and public education. So every child has like the right to learn, however they would learn best. So that kind of like goes into if a child is deaf and they enter a school system, we need to accommodate them, right? So maybe they need like an interpreter, or maybe they require like closed captioning on any audio or any like visual that they're like looking at with sound. They would need closed captioning with words, and like a team dedicated to serving that student would have to like do an evaluation and determine what any kid would need in that case. And I think like, so if they would maybe determine, and the parents would decide like, oh, well, I think they would do better in the school for the deaf, like that one in Delavan, then the public school would have to figure out how to get them there and pay for it if there's like a tuition and stuff. So just kind of an interesting thing. And then in 1990, the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed, also a national law. If there's anything government related, ASL interpreters are required for that. And where do you think that there are like the most ASL interpreters located? Like, I
would just assume the biggest cities like New York or LA.
I was gonna say, or like DC with the government stuff. Like if there has to be some interpretation there.
You got it, Erin. So DC has a lot of ASL interpreters and users. It was like in the whole like court system, ASL was the third most requested language in like the national courts. So,
oh wow,
interesting.
Okay. Yeah. And so that leads me to wonder, is like ASL the most used sign language then? Because I'm assuming it's people from other countries that are also requesting ASL interpreters.
That's a good question. I don't know if it's necessarily the most widely used sign language. There's hundreds. I think there's like, I don't know, hundreds of sign languages. Probably more than that if you count just like small communities. But I feel like probably in America, at least,
right?
And there's a couple different ones, or like different sign languages people use in the United States, but ASL is pretty much regarded as like the top one that people would use. And obviously we, teach it. There's classes. I think too, if you had a child that was deaf, the state would have to pay for, or you could get the state to pay for like classes if you wanted to learn ASL.
Oh, okay. Yeah. As a parent, like to learn.
As a parent. And like as your child is learning language, like somebody needs to teach them too.
Yeah.
So they would have like deaf and hard of hearing teachers that would teach them sign language. That's cool. It's interesting. And then I feel like there's been throughout the years, the research or the experts, the doctors, whoever has seen these kids have been like hot and cold on learning ASL, because I've read some stuff that was like, the doctors told me not to teach my kid ASL because they should learn how to use spoken English, or there was
there's
some
like
idea.
Some controversy there, right? Like
there's a little controversy there.
Yeah.
I think, because I think, and this kind of goes into the deaf community and like that culture, is they don't necessarily like, there's a camp of maybe deaf people that don't think that they would need to learn spoken language because they have this language that they can use. Why do they have to be the one to learn like a whole separate English language just to communicate with people? So that kind of, there's a lot there, I think, which is interesting. And it kind of goes into a bigger conversation of like ableism and stuff like that. But
yeah, for sure.
So let's get into a little bit of how it works. So like we kind of talked about before, instead of using words per se, you're using concepts. And speakers use facial expressions, gestures, space around them, head movements, and body language to communicate a concept. So one thing would be like, and this is actually an interesting one, like dog, you would tap your leg, like, come here, like dog.
Mm.
If you were saying puppy, you would tap your leg and then place your hands close together to indicate like small, like small dog,
Small
puppy.
dog.
Right. So you're kind of like
Cute.
illustrating concepts. Monkey would be bending your arms up to scratch your armpits. Whereas like a gorilla or like a large ape, you would do this, beat your chest.
I see.
I feel like if somebody did that, like you would be able to like know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
You know,
just a little bit.
Make a guess for sure, at least.
Yes. Right. You get the gist of it.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Or another example would be like deer. You kind of like hold your hands up like they're antlers.
Cute.
But like if you were signing elk or moose, you would make your hands come out. Yep. And to indicate like bigger antlers or like bigger deer kind of thing. So you're using all the space around you to indicate a word. And then there's also finger spelling. Do you guys remember learning the sign language alphabet?
Yeah. It's actually funny because in 4th grade, Erin and I learned the alphabet in sign language. And then instead of like passing notes, we would sign to each other messages across the classroom.
That's
Erin
so
doesn't
funny.
remember this. We did. That was the thing that happened, Erin.
Sure
I believe you. It sounds like us.
So, okay, when I first got interested in this topic, like I kind of like just went on Spotify and I'm like, oh, is there any like podcasts about this? And there is one from Stuff You Should Know.
Oh, I like that.
Do you guys know that?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the hosts literally said that exact thing. Like, do you remember
really
in middle school when all the girls would learn sign language and sign to each other? So it's funny that you said that. Yeah, it is smart. So people do use finger spelling to sign out like specific names or specific words. Maybe instead of doing like the antler thing for elk, I could just like finger spell ELK. Right.
Yeah, and I feel like that makes sense too if you're trying to say something really specific. Because I was kind of wondering about that, like especially when you're talking about different animals. It's like obviously maybe there's a specific breed of an animal that you're trying to convey. Like how would you convey that versus you know what I mean?
So I think they do use finger spelling like quite a bit, and then like people can probably do it super quick that are good at it, and then they call the person that's listening the receiver. So I suppose you would like recognize them really fast if like you're used to seeing people spelling out different letters. So So kind of along the lines of finger spelling, there's also this thing called indexing. So like if I was telling a story about Erin, say I would finger spell out her name and then I would point to the space next to me. Like if I was telling a story about Erin and she wasn't here, I would finger spell Erin and then point to the space next to me. So then when I'm referring to her during a story, I could just like point there instead of finger spelling your name all the time.
That's way cool. That's super interesting.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. That makes sense, though. Yeah. Like, I don't know. Makes it quicker, too. So,
yeah.
Are there examples of like how they would do that? Like index, like would you, if you wanted to index a bunch of words, is what I'm trying to say, would you point one way and then the next way so that we can remember?
Guess you could.
I don't know.
Or if you're talking about several different people, I think there's something that you could mimic a conversation that you like heard with somebody and you would be like, oh, Erin, like point next to me, this is Erin and I'm like talking to her, or this is like when I turn towards that space where she theoretically is and start talking to indicate, oh, I had a conversation with her, or like I heard a conversation she was having, or something like that. So
yeah, using like context clues to put it together. Yeah, okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah. Another thing, and I don't know if you've watched people signing, but they use like their facial expressions and the speed of their hands maybe to indicate something. So if I were saying running slowly versus running quickly, I think I just looked this up. The sign for run is you kind of like hook an index finger on a thumb and then you go like running. So you
Interesting.
Kind of flex your finger. But if I was running fast, I'd be like, I'm in a hurry, I'm running fast versus I'm running slow.
I see.
So you kind of use your face to indicate I was like really in a rush and I was stressed out and I was, you could like think about how your face would look like for that versus just taking a leisurely jog through the park or something.
Mm-hmm.
I have an example or something that I experienced similar to that, in that the Barbie movie was actually one of the first movies that had an option to have an ASL interpreter on the screen.
Oh,
Because most of the time you'd think like, oh, just captions, they had an ASL interpreter on the screen. And so that person could like, the music was big in the Barbie movie, right? So they were signing the music along to the beat of the song so people could
oh,
know,
cool.
there's just
That's
those things that you
cool.
don't think about that,
Uh-huh.
like you said, like just using your face and using like, your expressions. I think it's not just reading captions. There's so much more that goes into it,
Right.
I just thought that was interesting.
That is
That
interesting.
is cool. I wish that was an option like all the time. That would be really cool.
Yeah, I agree.
One other thing, if you sign something close to your body, you might be talking about an event that happened recently or will happen soon versus signing more away from your body would be more like, oh, it's happening a long time from now, or it happened a long time ago.
That's so
Oh,
interesting.
Yeah. Never knew that.
This is a lot more complex than I thought, but like it's like complex, but in a way that makes sense.
Yes.
At the same time.
Yeah.
It's super interesting.
Yeah, it is. I feel like pretty intuitive. So I'm interested for, I didn't go into this much, but for like a deaf child, how quickly they could pick it up versus like an English language.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder.
And so I think we kind of talked about this before, but going back to the controversy of doctors or whoever, experts saying that maybe kids shouldn't learn sign language. Part of the reasoning was that it's really hard, or it theoretically could be hard for people to learn how to read English when they're speaking something that's like not English. Right. So if you
it would like delay their speaking.
Maybe.
Basically.
I think like best practice now is like, yeah, teach them sign language, also teach them English. More language is better. But at one point it was kind of frowned upon to learn ASL because they thought that these kids then wouldn't learn or would be delayed in learning how to read. And obviously learning how to read is a huge deal if you can't hear and you're like, reading stuff.
I see.
Learn things.
Because it's not like those two things aren't like a one-to-one. So they prioritize reading physical words over signing, basically.
I think so.
That's what some did, I guess.
I think just with the advent of certain technologies like cochlear implants or ways to amplify or like try to get some sort of hearing is also part of why people kind of shied away from ASL at one point, or a certain group may have. But
okay,
I don't know. This is just interesting, like social topics.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah. Another thing I thought was interesting was that male gendered pronouns would be signed at the head. So you would put your thumb up to your forehead to say like dad, and your thumb down by your chin to say mom.
Okay.
Thanks, Miss Rachel.
Love
the
her.
reason is like at the time that this was developed, men would wear hats, like top hats. So you would sign it up here, whereas women would wear bonnets. So you would sign it down by the chin because it would tie below the chin.
It's like a lot less sexist than I thought was the reasoning.
I immediately
was like,
oh, like men are above women.
Yes.
Yeah, either that or it's like men are smart and women just talk or something like that is what I was thinking.
Yeah. Oh,
I had the same thought. Because I know boy is like this. I can't remember what girl is, but boy is like a hat, like almost like a baseball cap. Do you think
like on the brim?
So kind of like along that line too, kind of like a more modern way. You could do cheek to be more gender inclusive.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
Like any language, sign language is evolving all the time. And there's this really interesting New York Times article that talked about how signs are evolving with the times. So there's people that will sign like the cheek thing instead of saying man or woman, they'll just sign by the cheek to indicate like not necessarily either man or woman. Another example of that would be like when ASL was first developed, the phones were two pieces. So like phone sign would be a hand by your ear and a hand by your mouth, because you would have to use two hands to talk. And then it evolved to the, like what we know it as probably as like a hand or a thumb by your ear and the pinky by your mouth. But then it's now more like holding like a smartphone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
So it's
I've
like
seen
evolving
that
with
kids
the time.
naturally started doing that. Because, like, yeah, if we were
Yeah.
playing as kids and you were pretending to call somebody, that's how you do it, like with your pinky and your thumb out. But I've heard that kids, now it's more of just like a straight hand.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, that was a cool article because it's called, I have it pulled up, it's called How a Visual Language Evolves as Our World Does. It's a New York Times article, and they embed people doing the sign throughout the article. So I'll send that to you guys, and it's just an interesting one.
That's really cool.
Yeah, a couple etiquette things. As with speaking English, you would wait for the person to be done speaking or signing until it's your turn to talk. And if they look away from you, so the one doing the signs, and you look away, it means that you're still thinking and you're going to keep signing. And once your like thoughts come to you.
Wow.
So I would assume if you stop signing and look at the person, then it's their turn to talk.
I gotcha. I feel like when you're saying this stuff, like I'm starting to think back and notice some of those things that I didn't realize were actually on purpose, I guess. I feel like I remember the look away thing in a couple of videos that I've seen and things like that. But I didn't realize that meant I'm thinking. So.
Mm-hmm. And again, it like might be different for different people. But that's kind of like the gist of the etiquette. Yeah. So another couple like fun facts. Do you guys know what Martha's Vineyard is?
I can like picture it.
Isn't it like in DC? It's like Martha Washington's. Maybe I'm making this up.
I'm like picturing some brand for some reason.
Oh, like Vineyard Vines, probably.
Maybe. Okay, so maybe I'm not thinking of the right thing either.
Martha's Vineyard is this little island on the East Coast, like kind of off the coast of like Massachusetts.
Okay.
I think now it's kind of a ritzy kind of place that like people go and have homes on or whatever. But long ago, people came there from Europe, I guess, probably England, and settled there. And one of the people that came there was deaf, and he had all these kids that were deaf. So like this population really boomed on this small little island in the 1800s of deaf people. And they kind of formulated their own sign language.
Cool.
So that existed for a long time until the 50s when the last user died, and then it was considered a dead language. But I think some of those signs also like kind of carried over into ASL.
Okay.
It's kind of interesting. Like we talked a little bit already about like, or kind of a lot about the controversy over learning ASL versus spoken language. I saw different statistics, but one of them, I feel like between 8 to 23% of families with deaf children regularly use sign language. I saw somewhere 8% of parents with deaf children know ASL, like can speak it, which was like lower percentage than I thought.
I would have thought it would be way higher, and that makes me kind of sad, honestly.
Yeah. I think a higher percentage of parents use signs, maybe not necessarily
fluently.
ASL.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
Yeah, like maybe not like a fluent language, but yeah, it's low. And I'm wondering too, how many kids now just like learn English versus using ASL, or maybe they like use ASL with their friends that are deaf and then try to, use English with their families. I don't know, but I thought that was kind of interesting. Obviously, there's a lot of barriers, to learning it as an adult, because I think it's harder to learn as an adult. It's harder to learn any language as an adult versus like a kid naturally getting it. And if you have a kid or a toddler who's trying to learn it, that's a busy time of life already. And now you're trying to learn a language. So I think, there's factors there. But I think most families probably use the combination of spoken language and sign language.
And at the end
I
of the
just thought
day,
that was
like figure
interesting.
out what works best for you and your family too, or I mean, that's like with anything, obviously, but I know that there's state resources you can get to for pointing you in the right direction for some help with ASL classes and things like that. But to your point, not everyone has time to take classes. Good thing there's YouTube nowadays, though. I'm sure that that's probably helpful to learn a bit on your own time. No, to each their own, I guess. I wonder what makes people decide one way or another. It's probably multiple factors.
Right. A couple other things. Like I mentioned, there's different kinds of sign languages that people use in America. SEE is signed exact English, which is like literally translating an English word into a sign.
Oh, so that one has like the what do you call them? I forgot what they're called. The like
articles,
and articles.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
So if I would say like I am going to bed, I would sign every single word there versus ASL. You might just say, point to yourself and then do the sign for bed. And whoever you're talking to is going to get it. And then there's pigeon sign language, which is not spelled like the animal, said like the animal. PIDGIN, pigeon. Pigeon signs English, like a combination between ASL and signed exact English.
Interesting.
I also saw a lot of signs. If you would sign the first letter of a word, and then like if you're going to sign breakfast, you would do the sign for B and then put it to your mouth, because the sign for eat is putting your hand by your mouth. So you would just sign a B and put it by your mouth, and people would get breakfast. But you could also sign breakfast, eat, and then the sign for morning, which is like the sun coming up.
Okay.
So there's more than one way to say things.
Yeah. So like I'm wondering why somebody would necessarily learn one way over the other.
Right.
Like if, I don't know. It's just interesting.
I mean, I think signed exact English, that's also kind of like controversial in the deaf community because, again, you're not signing. I mean, you're using English as the foundation, which is like, well, I don't need to use English, right? I have this whole accessible language that I can use with people. So I think probably how that kind of formed is back to, people thinking that everyone should learn English, and this is just like another way to like communicate in English. I guess. One other little tidbit that I read, there is a Black ASL. So obviously back in like 1817, there was still segregated schools, and for a long time after that too. So people who are Black and deaf kind of formed their own signs.
That makes sense.
So that's probably like a whole another topic. I think they're like similar, but just taking into account like, the whole history of that being Black
language,
in America and so
like the cultural vernacular that we still see today too from speaking English. Okay.
So
that's a whole rabbit hole I could go down. That's so interesting.
I know. So I think it's like similar to spoken English. Somebody who is communicating with their Black family might use different signs than if they were signing with like white friends, kind of like code switching.
Yeah, code switching.
Yeah. But I thought that was interesting and would probably want to learn more about that. So yeah, in conclusion, there's a lot of variance in the use of ASL and other signs. It's an important communication tool for the deaf community, regardless of any hearing correction they may or may not have, or however much hearing they do have. And I think it's important to mention that just like that combination of communication or languages is becoming kind of the standard of care for deaf children, learning both ASL and spoken English, reading English. So yeah, that's my stuff. Erin, does any of this sound familiar from your class?
Those brain cells are dead a long time ago.
Is your class more like teaching you how to speak it versus I don't know, maybe a lot of, I mean, I guess Amy did talk about like how to do different things, but
It was intro and it wasn't in person. So it was, you watch the professor's video and then you record yourself, do a video back. And then, like I said, it was like, I wanted to learn it a lot. My drive was there, but I had so many, I think that was a semester I had OChem as well. So that was kind of the least of my priorities at that point, unfortunately. But I really want to go back and just get like a handful of things down and keep practicing.
So I'm curious, I didn't come across any of the chimp things, or like I didn't research into like animal sign language. So what do you know about that?
I mean, it's just a tool that for, non-human primates that we've been using to communicate. And I have it on my list of topics to talk about as well at some point. But I think I just find it interesting that they can also take words like, I think there was like a caretaker that was pregnant and lost their baby. And like the next time they went in and I think it was a gorilla, they like signed baby and then like cry and all of that. So they're just, it's intuitive, or it's just a way to, I guess, talk to species that aren't us, but like can also talk back, I don't know. Really cool stuff like Coco, and I can't remember, there's a bunch of others. I think it's
sounds like
tool.
the dream.
I know.
Amy, are you gonna go and take a class or learn more now that you've sparked this interest even more? I'm sure.
Oh gosh, I don't know. I feel like the best way to learn it would be like talking with a native speaker, or like learning from that. I feel like there's probably a lot of classes that you could find online that are taught by somebody who is deaf, just like using subtitles or like somebody voicing it over to like communicate with a hearing person. So maybe.
I think this episode inspired me more than I've ever felt to learn it. Like it feels like we were saying, just super intuitive, which I enjoy. And to Erin's point too, like we should maybe all be required to take a class or two of it in school. I think would be cool.
Yeah, I mean, it is considered a foreign language, I guess. So if you needed a credit, if you're in college, that could be a foreign language credit, I guess, or a world language credit versus taking Spanish or French or whatever. And I've maybe like just as or more useful, because like I said, like I have students that use some signs, and Erin, somebody who uses sign language, and it's just, it's a cool language, and I think a beautiful language too, if you just like watch people communicating with it.
Yeah. I'm also curious to learn more about like the cochlear implant as well. I don't know too much besides that sometimes people get it implanted and then they can hear, but is it like, I don't know. Do you guys know much about the cochlear implants?
I know somebody that I know somebody that's deaf that can like hear me still, you know what I mean? And so like I'm assuming that's what she has, and that is the extent of my knowledge. I think it's interesting, and I don't know.
Yeah, I just kind of looked at it a little bit, and I think they can hear stuff, but it doesn't necessarily sound like you and I would hear necessarily.
Yeah, I'm curious. Okay.
And then I suppose like some people too, I think there's like a range of deafness, right? So some people are born like completely deaf. Some people acquire that deafness. Some people just have really, really bad hearing. So maybe you could use like a different amplification to hear better.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, whole nother thing.
Also cool. Yeah.
Really cool. I learned a lot. Yeah, I did not.
Good.
Yeah, realize how much goes into it.
Isn't that fun, Amy?
But I just didn't know.
It's fun. Yeah, I learned. I liked doing that research, and thanks for having me on. That was fun.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, we appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely. Well, that was fun. I wish I could just like do this in sign language right now. Like just
that'd be cool.
like alongside what I'm saying. Okay.
That could be your goal.
Yeah.
That people would watch.
Yeah. I would love to be more inclusive that way. But anyway, thank you so much again for joining us, Amy. That was really fun. And that's really it for this week's Rabbit Hole. Next week, ...
Well, it'll be here eventually.
Yep, maybe next week. But anyway, tell us what you're hyperfixated on as well. Drop it in the comments, DMs, or email us. And maybe your obsession will make it into a future episode as well. Until then, embrace the spiral, stay curious, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.